Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, so we're going to start with the first item on the agenda, which is citizen concerns. Any concerns which are not already on the agenda, you can come forward, speak your name and address, and anybody to be heard. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to approval of the agenda. I'll move that. Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Items 3 through 7 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of July 26, 2022 meeting. Item 4 is approval of claims. Item 5 from Human Resources, approval of memorandum of personnel transactions. Item 6 from Secondary Roads, approve the underground utility permit for John Hinman, City of Hornick, and to direct the chair to sign the permit. 7 from Secondary Roads and Community and Economic Development, approval to set the dates and times for 3 public hearings. August 9th at 4:40 p.m., August 16th at 4:40 p.m., August 23rd at 4:40 p.m. for a proposed amendment to the setback requirements in Ordinance 56. Any discussion for any of those items on there? So just to clarify then from, I don't know if Joshua, do you have a different legal opinion on item 7? It was discussed that in the motion to have it at 2,500 foot, is that the minimum then that it can be expressed at or explored at, or during the discussion of 3 hearings, can the board still be wherever, 1,250, 1,600, 1,500, or 4,000?
Well, I think the purpose of having the public hearings and receiving public input is so that the ordinance could be changed in a way that reflects that public input. The public notice is in such a way that it allows for amendment that would be consistent with the change along the way. So
That was just a question that had come up over the week, and I was curious. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the consent, or actually I got to move the consent agenda. I'll move that.
second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Rocky's not here, Keith.
Or 4-0. Yeah, thank you. All right. We're a minute early for the 4:35. Are we good for public sale? Next public sale, we should probably. How long would it take to receive that final report? Dan? All right. Okay, let's go ahead and do 10A real quick.
Is for the rezone and lead up to the public hearing. This is basically a final report from the zoning commission to the supervisors to recommend approval of the rezone request
For the zoning map amendment
for
on
the zoning map
10B.
amendment of the Livermore parcel.
I'll go ahead and move 10A.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you. And now we're at our 4:35. So we are now in a public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against the sale of property known as 515 South College Street? This is item 8 on the agenda. So this is just for the public hearing, whether or not you're for or against the sale of the property. So,
We're not taking bids yet.
all right. Seeing none, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Now we're receiving bids. Come on up to make a bid, name, address, and dollar amount.
My name is Bo Brockway. My address is 4724 Grayhawk Ridge Drive, Sioux City, Iowa, 51106, I think.
Yep.
And I'm here to give the minimum bid of $357.
All right. Anyone else to give the old college try? All right. Seeing no other bids, I'll move to sell the property to Bo Brockway for $357.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you, and Karen has you. Dan, what else can we do from D? Is D of?
Yeah, we can do D.
All right. So we're going to move on to 10D, receive the final staff report and P&Z Commission recommendation for the 7/25/22 meeting.
Okay, this is the zoning commission's recommendation to accept and approve the Evergreens Edition final plat. There is a recommended pavement agreement from staff for a 60/40 pavement agreement versus the typical 80/20.
All right. I'll move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Wright. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Moving on to E, approve the Evergreens Edition final plat with the condition that a 60/40 pavement agreement with Woodbury County be recorded and authorize the chairman to sign the resolution. Same thing we just discussed. I'll go ahead and move it.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. And item F, approve resolution setting fees for various zoning subdivision and floodplain permit applications submitted to the Community and Economic Development Department.
Yeah, basically, this process adds on some language for adding additional fees if publications end up costing the office more than $100, as well as having 30-some publications exceeding 30 to be covered, as well as this does increase the fees for the conditional use permit up to $300, as well as the subdivision plats up to $300 for minor subdivision, up to $350 for major subdivisions.
Well, this was on information last week. We kind of discussed this, and any major projects that obviously we have a few coming up that are going to require incredible notification efforts. So I think it's smart to have this in place and to protect the county. I'll go ahead and move this.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, that passes 4-0. Thank you. We'll be back to you at 4:45. Thank you. Pass Pass those down to Pat, please. And we are at our 4:40 set time. Item 9A is the public hearing on the issuance of Conduit revenue bonds or notes, Siouxland Regional Transit System Project.
Okay, this is just a public hearing for the intention of to issue the bonds and notes. Gives the public the opportunity for or against it, or any comments. We have received no written comments either way.
I'll say from our CERTS board meeting, obviously, everyone's kind of excited to move forward and get this done because interest rates aren't necessarily going the right direction. So, anyone else to be heard on the public hearing? All right, I'll move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, so now we'd be 9B, approval of resolution relating to the holding of public hearing and approving taking additional action for the issuance of conduit revenue bonds or notes for CERTS project in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $2,100,000. I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes 4-0. Moving on to item 11 from Building Services. Approve Sioux City Engineering Company 28th Street paving project contract change order number 2 in the amount of $190,113.65. Take it
Kenny
away.
Schmitz, Building Services. I'm going to ask Matt Miller from Toth and Shane Albrecht from the Baker Group to come up and explain explain the details of change order number 2 for 28th Street. I do have a couple of comments before they start down that list. In your backup material was a list of items in that listed underneath that change order. That comes right out of the contract. Item 16 is pavement striping removal. I addressed that item. It was within my unprofessional opinion that if you knew you had to put new striping down, you probably also knew that you probably had to take the old striping out first. So I requested several individuals' input, but I did request that Mark Nara look at our plans to get his professional opinion on that. His professional opinion was that we needed to pay for that item. And so that's the explanation for that item 16. Just overall for the board, one thing that I'd like to point out is that when you do these paving projects, there are line items drafted into those documents, just as you see the itemized list in that change order number 2 for change orders, for items and quantities of things that can't be assumed under the bid, and that the engineer does his best job to estimate what all those materials and quantities are. But there are always adjustments as that project moves forward. And so I'd like to keep the board to keep that in mind. Shane and Matt, you can go ahead and go down your list and just explain it if you would. Thank you.
Shane Albrecht, Baker Group, 600 Maverick Lane, Madrid, Iowa. You want me to go first? Oh, I'm the first person, but I figured we'd do it overall.
I might have you both introduce yourself. We're going to probably jump back to our 4:45.
Okay.
Matt Miller, Toth and Associates, 5770 South Fox Hollow, Springfield, Missouri.
All right. If you want to come back on up, Dan, we'll jump down to, or back up to 10B, which is the public hearing on proposed zoning ordinance map amendment. Go ahead and give the background on that again. And
Yeah, basically, this is a rezone to the agricultural estates zoning district for the purpose of completing a boundary adjustment between two parcels that are in different zoning districts for Mark A. Livermore and Michelle Livermore, which is an assigned area, parcel number 894430300008.
All right, so this is a public hearing. Anybody to be heard? All right. Seeing none, I'll move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. And then 10C is conduct and approve the first reading of the ordinance. So,
Again, it's to rezone the parcel from the agricultural preservation zoning district to the agricultural estate zoning district for a 2.89 acre portion in the northeast quarter, the southwest quarter, section 30 in the Arlington Township.
all right. I'll move approval of the first reading.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, passes 4-0. Thank you, Dan. And you guys are back.
All right. So the very first thing on there, pavement removals. Additional cost for removing pavement on both 28th Street and Outer Drive. The plans in Matt's opinion, our engineer, were very specific that it was inferred those pavement removals should have been part of the contract. We had a meeting with Joshua and stuff at this time, and we had just issued a stop work order on the project, and we were getting billed for downtime and stuff like that because of, this project has been very contentious. I think that's a very respectful word between Matt and John Salzbeck, us and the city, not able to get answers. So we tried to all work together, which was what everybody was trying to do to get the project done and finished. So we wouldn't agree to the stop work time, but we took some concessions and agreed to pavement removals just to try to give an olive branch, because we thought maybe at this time of the project it would be helpful. It didn't turn out gratefully helpful, but it did move around and we didn't have to pay for the stop work time. So that was, we were just trying to negotiate and be what we thought was fair to everybody, okay? I think the next one's on you.
So the next line items on the change order, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are, have to do with kind of what Kenny was talking about, where there are, adjustments to the actual quantities that are installed either up or down during construction. Some of those are being taken out, some of those are being putting in. There was a fairly large discrepancy on the amount of concrete being installed on Outer Drive, and that was due to some changes in the plans that were not accounted for in the line item. So that quantity is what was always planned to be installed. It just wasn't properly accounted for in the line item in the original contract. The other difference here is in some items where, we submitted a set of plans to the city that were done to, they reviewed them and commented on them, and so we worked back and forth multiple times. And then as we got into construction, there were still some things in the plans that the city decided they'd like to see done differently. Among those are putting extra concrete on Outer Drive. So that is what is shown there, and item 3 is changing 7 inches to 9 inches of concrete. Another one of those items is item 7 and 12 are where we had in the plans a manhole that was simply, we're going to change the top elevation of it. When we got into the field, come to find out the manhole's in pretty bad shape, so the city asked for the entire manhole to be replaced instead of just adjusting it. So I think those Does that cover what I'm supposed to talk about until
supposed
your
to deal
next
with
one?
the
You
man-
were
I was
supposed to do with the manhole. I
So
apologize.
which percent of the, or what amount of this change order was going back, or that's passed on to them?
Right now, the city is expecting you're gonna pay all this change order. They have held to the statement that they're paying the 2.8
Up
million.
to 2.8 million, right?
And they're not paying any more than that. Since our project came in over the 2.8, there's always been money that you were gonna have to cover to get the road done. All these different changes, like my .7, so this manhole was there and on the plans that the city reviewed 4 times and approved. The structure was old, and in a partnership and trying to work with everybody, it doesn't make sense to take a manhole that's old and decrepit and
Sure.
raise the limbs, so we thought, hey, we should replace
So
it.
we're gonna hit the 2.8 is what you're saying?
And
Yeah.
we're over the
Yeah,
2.8.
okay.
So what I'm saying is, some of these things, I do feel the city should help with this, because there's another item down here where they said to leave the intake, but when we took the road up and looked at the intake, all this pipe was brand new except for 20 feet of it. Do we really want to bury 20 feet of old pipe that's 40 years old underneath the new road? They reviewed the plans, they said that's what we should do, but that didn't make sense. Let's not put something old in there right after we just put a new road out there and have to tear it up. So some of those things, I think our engineers should go back at Gordon Fair, and we should get some money from the city on these things. Whether they actually give you any money, they've been pretty hard set on the fact that they're paying 2.8 and no more than 2.8.
Sure. That was the agreement.
Yes.
I mean, it was written down, so
Yes.
I don't see where we have any grounds otherwise, so.
But we also didn't think it was a very good partnership for the county to not fix a manhole if it's clearly an old and decrepit manhole, and we're gonna put it back under the street. If it's out by the jail, we're gonna drive by and everything else. And have
But, I mean, that's only one of the 12 items or whatever here. I
The
mean,
two, yeah.
So,
Yes, yeah, a couple of them, that is correct, 2. The intake as well,
Correct.
okay? Think manhole, additional cost for the apron footing. So on the detail that was provided by the city, there was no, real dimensions on this footing. This was the one Joshua was involved in. We brought Mark Nara in to give his review and his opinion as well. We felt that was an item that should be paid for because it wasn't explicit enough to tell them the size and stuff. So that's why that's on. Modification originally remained, but the city modified it. Oh, I've done that. So I think we're down to, line 12, item 15.
Yes, which was a relocation of a fire hydrant on Outer Drive. Again, another thing where, after the fact, the city said we needed to move the fire hydrant further away from the road than it was shown in the plans. And then the last 3 items were, as the contractor was digging on Outer Drive, there were some areas where the subgrade was unsuitable. And so we're not sure exactly what the cause of that was, whether they're thinking maybe there's water, they couldn't find the source of. In any case, the subgrade had to be removed and replaced in order to have a suitable subgrade to build the road on top of. So as being an unforeseen condition, we feel that's something that the contractor's entitled to a change order on, so.
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
so my question, I guess, is for Dennis or maybe someone else to address, but where is the source of funds come from, potentially, so that we don't go over our statutory limit or otherwise, or what are some recommendations for us if this is approved, which I assume it will be?
Well, the city's gonna reimburse us 2.8 million. We are above that because you also have to add architectural fees on there, engineering fees, things like that. Beggar's fee also. So originally had 421,000 over the 2.8. It's gonna be higher than that, and we plan on using ARPA funds for that.
But I guess my specific question is that the motion on the agenda says motion to approve this in the amount of $190,113. If it's new or additional monies, where are we essentially pulling that from?
Okay, we'll have to expand our ARPA projects higher than the 421,000 we originally thought, which I believe we probably can. Or if you don't want to expand the ARPA project, it comes out of our general basic fund reserves. So I'd highly recommend we use as much ARPA as we can to cover these additional costs.
Okay. If that's allowable, then
Yes, and we've talked with our consultants, and I'm sure we can get it through without a problem.
Yeah, 5.1.
Yep.
okay, thank you.
What was the total project estimate up front on the 28th? I mean, I know originally it was 2.8 or something way back when, but of course that changed.
I believe our engineer's estimate when we went, the engineer's estimate when we went to construction was like 3.2 or 3.3 million. It was over 3 million for an engineer's estimate just for the construction. The bid came in significantly lower than that, so I think.
Reality is we're kind of still right around what we expected to spend.
Right, so originally, the total approved amount, I believe, was somewhere around like 414,000 over the 2.8. And right now, with all of these things, we would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 423,000 total over the
That's kind of what
2.8.
going back in my memory banks, I thought that was kind of about where we were expecting this project to be anyway, so.
There was a contingency built into that original approval.
All right, I'll move item 11.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Wright. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes.
I'd also like to bring to the board's attention that this will not be the final change order. We have some driveways along 28th Street that were installed, and they're now going to be probably torn out and redone.
Oh, yeah, you're talking the entrance to the,
No, that's
No.
additional.
okay.
I,
Are you talking a different entrance?
These are the farmers' driveways off of 28th Street. There's 3 of them. One north to Casey Fenton's property and 2 south that'll have to be removed to the farmer that, right now they're too steep for him to get his semi down to be able to load his cattle out. We met out there today when we were doing a punch list with the Gordon Fair, the city, the farmer, and everybody to try to work through a plan. Matt had already kind of had a detail drawn up of what he thought needed to happen, and now we just got to work through that whole process. We also have the road. I did get an estimate today, so right now there'll be, when this road gets open, there'll be 69 feet of this road that won't be paved, which is right out in front of the entrance of the jail, just because of timing and everything else. So there'll be 69 feet that won't be paved. It's filled with rock. The county engineer, Mark Nara, has done a phenomenal job out there helping keep that road going so we can keep the jail moving. So I want to commend him, but that looks like it's going to cost about $30,000 to put that final 69 feet of road in. That was an estimate I received today. Not a hard bid, but just an estimate of what
Sure.
the cost would be.
Probably have to close that road for a month too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so we're working through the costs on those driveways, or Matt will be working through the costs on those. I may have to contact you and get some input on, depending on how that pans out, on what we feel might be appropriate. Maybe the city should pay some portion of that. I don't know, that's something we have to work through.
Well, I think at the end, it all comes back to who we hired to do plans, right? So,
On this, it's going to be a mix.
It is.
It's a mix of the plans, a mix of,
Some of these conversations should have happened with the farmer before,
sure.
not today when we're out there and we're now deciding this, we need a 32-foot gate instead of,
a 16-foot gate.
All right, thank you. Item
And you're
12.
gonna be bringing the LOU forward with the city?
We already have.
Was it on the agenda?
It was on the agenda, yes.
Okay.
All right, item 12 from Human Resources. A, approval of request to change the accrued compensatory time payout date for wage plan employee JJ.
I'm Melissa Thomas, Human Resources Director. The first agenda item is to request a different payout time for this employee. He is a wage plan employee, and currently he follows the employee handbook, which is payout by the end of June, the last week in June. He has requested to have that changed to the same as his department, which is not wage plan, to December 15th on a permanent basis.
I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, it's a complete payout down to zero, and then he would start over, so.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Wright. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Item 12B, approval of request to add additional EMT position to Emergency Services Department. Now, this is not really adding an additional, but maybe a shift of
Well,
roles. Okay.
The second agenda item is to allow an employee that already does work for emergency services, who is an EMT, licensed EMT in the state of Iowa, to work as an EMT for our department when needed. The EMT position is a different category as far as IPERS goes. So after we reached out to IPERS, they suggested that we report the hours that this person works as IPERS, so she can get the correct, or that person can get the correct credit or what position she's working.
Comments, Emergency Service Director.
Go ahead,
This
go
person's
right
done
up to the
this
mic there. So.
quite a bit since they went to 2 people in a truck. This employee's done this for quite a while. This should have been done years ago. This all should have been transferred. There should have been some changes made years ago on it so that it gets recorded IPERS right.
Sure, and we want to be fair to people that if they're doing the job, they get, yep.
I
I'll go
brought
ahead.
this to the board's attention as soon as I realized that this person was working in this position.
So I'll go ahead and move 12B.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you. Item 13 from the sheriff. Approve and sign the interlocal agreement between the City of Sioux City, Iowa and Woodbury County, Iowa.
Tony Wingert, Sheriff's Office. Real quick before we do that, we got our yearly pool money back from ACH in the total of $50,409.22. So that'll be given to probably Dennis, and you can go to wherever Dennis says it needs to go. So just wanted to make you aware of that. As far as the Jag Grant, this is a yearly thing that I come to you guys. Last night, the city police department went to their council, had them sign them. There's 5 copies here. I need Keith, you to sign, and I need Pat to sign. And our award this year is $27,150. We both get $27,000 to use for equipment.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, and item 14, secondary roads. A, approve the resolution to reclassify level of service B roads to level A service.
Mark Nair, Woodbury County Engineer. As we discussed when we put the level B road into place, we looked at whether there was a residence on a road as far as determining whether gravel roads should revert to that lower level of service. We looked at traffic count as well. The 2 roads subject of today are roads with low traffic count where there's no residences, but it is a direct path of travel for one property owner between a bin site and his home farm. And that's the kind of things you don't necessarily pick up with the GIS analysis. The property owner brought that to our attention, and I'm recommending that we rectify the situation with a change in classification, bring them back to level A service.
I'll move 14A.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Ung. Did want to just commend you for always being willing to, immediately react when you have this kind of concern and bring back things, so I think it builds a level of trust between the engineer and those that have issues. And that said, any other discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes 4-0. 14B is approve the contract for pavement markings 2022 with Vogel Traffic Services for $138,560.
We took bids a couple of weeks ago. Low bid was Vogel. We have had requests for a couple of additional areas that weren't within the map, but this year we're really constrained with budget with the level of inflation that we're seeing on all of our construction projects, our fuel, and all of our inputs. We'll probably be adding a couple of roads that have been requested, but we don't plan on overrunning much more than $12,000. We budgeted $150,000 this year, so we're going to be pretty tight with what we've got approved right here.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Young. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Item 14C is approved quitclaim deed for right-of-way for Gabe and Terry Demarest.
Yes, last week we took action to vacate some excess right-of-way. It did not affect access. We prepared a quitclaim deed for that property owner. I recommend approval of the quitclaim deed transferring county interest to Demarists.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Young. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, that passes 4-0. Jeremy's still out there, right? Yeah. All right.
I am.
Item 14D is approved quitclaim deed for right-of-way for Sensible Properties LLC.
This is one of the vacated streets from Morningside Second Edition. It's a portion of Wells Avenue. We have taken the 60-foot right-of-way of Wells Avenue and split it, 30 feet for both property owners on either side of the road within the frontage of the lots that they own. I recommend approval of the deed for Sensible.
I'll go ahead and move 14D. These are all pretty much in that area, correct?
The
This is
remaining
what we've
ones are
done.
all on Wells Avenue.
Okay.
Former Wells Avenue. So yes, they are all the same from here on out.
So, you don't have to give the description on them. I'll just go ahead and move them
Okay.
after that. But,
Second.
So I got a motion by Raddick, second by Ung on 14D. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, passes 4-0. I'll move 14E.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Wright. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. I'll go ahead and move 14F, approve quitclaim deed for Mohaven and Quawkey.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Wright. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. And I'll move 14G as approved quitclaim deed for right-of-way for Charles and Christine Hope.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Wright. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. Moving on to reports on committee meetings. Matthew?
Nope.
Justin?
No.
Jeremy, you have any committees?
I don't.
All right. Caught myself off guard. Map. Oh, obviously, we had our CERT special meeting last week to discuss bringing today's item forward. We had to get that done before our agenda for today. So that was done on Thursday. And that was it. So, item 16, citizen concerns, round 2. Anything that was not on the agenda? Any questions or anything that was? All right, moving on to item 17, board concerns. None, we're adjourned.